Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And if you get anything from my work, a mic drop, a connected dot, a mind-blown moment, an epiphany, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work, and all the links will be at the description below the video. Urantia, the Morontia Life, paper 48. Before I begin, just want to wish everybody in America a happy Independence Day. Independent from what? I don't know. But please be safe, be seen. And we're going to begin. This is a very long chapter, FYI, so buckle up. The Morontia Life. The gods cannot, at least they do not, transform a creature of gross animal nature into a perfected spirit by some mysterious act of creative magic. When the creators desire to produce perfect beings, they do so by direct and original creation, but they never undertake to convert animal origin and material creatures into beings of perfection in a single step. The Morontia Life, extending as it does over the various stages of the local universe career, is the only possible approach whereby material mortals could obtain the threshold of the spirit world. What magic could death, the natural dissolution of the material body, hold that such a simple step should instantly transform the mortal and material mind into an immortal and perfected spirit? Such beliefs are but ignorant, superstitious, and pleasing fables. Always the Morontia transition intervenes between the mortal estate and the subsequent spirit status of surviving human beings. This intermediate state of universe differs markedly in the various local creations, but intent and purpose, they are all quite similar. The arrangement of the mansion and the higher Morontia worlds in Nebadon is fairly typical of the Morontia transition regimes in this part of Arvanten. Morontia materials. The Morontia realms are the local universe liaison spheres between the material and spiritual levels of creature existence. This Morontia life has been known on Urantia since the early days of the planetary prince. From time to time, this transition state has been taught to mortals, and the concept in distorted form has found a place in present-day religions. The Morontia spheres are the transition phases of mortal ascension through the progression worlds of the local universe. Only the 7 worlds surrounding the finaliter sphere of the local systems are called mansion worlds, but are 56 of the system transition abodes in common with the higher spheres around the constellations and the universe headquarters are called Morontia worlds. These creations partake of the physical beauty and the Morontia grandeur of the local universe headquarters spheres. All of these worlds are architectural spheres, and they have just double the number of elements of the evolved planets. Such made-to-order worlds not only abound in the heavy metals and crystals, have 100 physical elements, but likewise have exactly 100 forms of a unique energy organization called Morontia material. The master physical controllers on the Morontia power supervisors are able so to modify the revolutions of the primary units of matter, and at the same time so to transform these associations of energy as create this new substance. The early Morontia life in the local systems is very much like that of your present material world, becoming less physical and more truly Morontial on the constellation study worlds. And as you advance to the Salvington spheres, you increasingly obtain spiritual levels. The Morontia power supervisors are able to effect a union of material of the spiritual energies, thereby organizing a Morontia form of materialization which is receptive to the superimposition of a controlling spirit. When you traverse the Morontia life of Nebadon, these same patient and skillful Morontia power supervisors will successfully provide you with 570 Morontia bodies, each one of the phase of your progressive transformation. From the time of leaving the material worlds until you are constituted a first stage spirit on Salvington, you will undergo just 570 separate and ascending Morontia changes. 8 of these occur in the system, 71 in the constellation, 491 during the sojourn on the spheres of Salvington. In the days of the mortal flesh, the divine spirit indwells you almost as a thing apart in reality and invasion of man by the bestowal spirit of the universal Father. But in the Morontia life, the spirit will become a real part of your personality. And as you successfully pass through the 570 progressive transformations, you ascend from the material to the spiritual estate of creature life. Paul learned of the existence of the Morontia worlds and of reality of Morontia materials, for he wrote, quote, "They have in heaven a better and more enduring substance," end quote. And these Morontia materials are real, literal, and even as in the city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. In each of these marvelous spheres is a better country that is a heavenly one. Interesting. The Morontia power supervisors. These unique beings are exclusively concerned with the supervision of those activities which represent a working combination of spiritual and physical or semi-material energies. They are exclusively devoted to the ministry of Morontia progression. Not that they so much minister to mortals during the transition experience, but they rather make possible the transition environment for the progression of Morontia creatures. They are the channels of Morontia power, which sustain and energize the Morontia phases of the transition worlds. Morontia power supervisors are the offspring of a local universe, Mother Spirit. They are fairly standard in design, though differing slightly in nature, the various local creations. They are created for their specific function and require no training before entering upon their responsibilities. The creation of the first Morontia power supervisors is simultaneous with the arrival of the first mortal survivor on the shores of one of the first mansion worlds in a local universe. They are created in groups of 1,000, classified as follows. 1. Circuit regulators, 400. 2. System coordinators, 200. 3. Planetary custodians, 100. 4. Combined controllers, 100. Liaison stabilizers, 100. Selective assorters, 50. Assorted registers, 50. The power supervisors always serve in their native universe. They are directed exclusively by the joint spirit activity of the universe sun and the universe spirit, but are otherwise a wholly self-governing group. They maintain headquarters on each of the first mansion worlds of the local systems, where they work in close association with both the physical controllers and the seraphim, but function in a world of their own as regards energy manifestation and spirit application. They also sometimes work in connection with supermaterial phenomena on the evolutionary worlds as ministers of temporary assignment, but they rarely serve on the inhabited planets, neither do they work on the higher training worlds of the super universe, but being chiefly devoted to the transition regime of Morontia progress in a local universe. Circuit regulators. These are the unique beings who coordinate physical and spiritual energy and regulate its flow into the segregated channels of the Morontia spheres. And these circuits are exclusively planetary, limited to a single world. The Morontia circuits are distinct from and supplementary to both physical and spiritual circuits on the transition worlds, and it requires millions of these regulators to energize even a system of mansion worlds like that of Satania. Circuit regulators initiate those changes in material energies which render them subject to the control and regulation of their associates. These beings are Morontia power generators. as well as circuit regulators. Much as a dynamo apparently generates electricity out of the atmosphere, so do these living Morontia dynamos seem to transform the everywhere energies of space into those materials which the Morontia supervisors weave into the bodies and life activities of the ascending mortals. 2. System coordinators. Since each Morontia world has a separate order of Morontia energy, it is exceedingly difficult for humans to visualize these spheres. But on each successive transition sphere, mortals will find the plant life and everything else pertaining to the Morontia existence progressively modified to correspond with the advancing spiritualization of the ascending survivor. And since the energy system of each world is thus individualized, these coordinators operate to harmonize and blend such differing power systems into a working unit for the associated sphere of any particular group. Ascending mortals gradually progress from their physical to the spiritual as they advance from one Morontia world to another, hence the necessity for providing an ascending scale of Morontia spheres and an ascending scale of Morontia forms. When mansion world ascenders pass from one sphere to another, they are delivered by the transport seraphim to the receivers of the system coordinators on the advanced world. Here in those unique temples, at the center of the 70 radiating wings, within are the chambers of transition, similar to the resurrection. Halls of an initiated world, reception for earth origin mortals, the necessary changes in creature form are skillfully effected by the system coordinators. These early Morontia form changes require about 7 days of standard time for their accomplishment. 3. Planetary custodians. Each Morontia world, from the mansion spheres up to the universe headquarters, is in custody as regards Morontia affairs of 70 guardians. They constitute the local planetary council of supreme Morontia authority. These councils grant material from Morontia form to all ascending creatures who land on the sphere and authorities those changes in creature form which make it possible for an ascender to proceed to the succeeding sphere. After the mansion worlds have been traversed, you will translate from one phase of Morontia life to another without having to surrender consciousness. Unconsciousness attends only the earlier metamorphosis and the later transitions from one universe to another and from Harvona to paradise. 4. Combined controllers. One of these highly mechanical beings is always stationed at the center of each administrative unit of Morontia world. A combined controller is sensitive to and functional with physical, spiritual, and Morontia energies. And with this being there are always associated 2 system coordinators, 4 circuit regulators, 1 planetary custodian, 1 liaison stabilizer, and either an associate register or a selective assorter. 5. Liaison stabilizers. These are the regulators of the Morontia energy in association with the physical and spiritual forces of the realm. They make possible the conversion of Morontia energy into Morontia material. The whole Morontia organization of existence is dependent on stabilizers. They slow down the energy revolutions to that point where the physicalization can occur, but I have no terms with which I can compare or illustrate the ministry of such beings. It is quite beyond human imagination. 6. Selective assorters. As you progress from one class or phase of Morontia world to another, you must be rekeyed or advance tuned, and it is the task of the selective assorters to keep you in progressive synchrony with the Morontia life. While the basic Morontia forms of life and matter are identical from the first mansion world to the last universal transition sphere, there is a functional progression which gradually extends from the material to the spiritual. Your adaptation to this basically uniform but successfully advancing and spiritualizing creation is affected by this selective rekeying. Such an adjustment in the mechanism of personality is tantamount to a new creation, with notwithstanding that you retain the same Morontia form. You may repeatedly subject yourself to the test of these examiners. As soon as you register adequate spiritual achievement, they will gladly certify you for advanced standing. These progressive changes result in altered reactions to the Morontia environment, such as modifications in food requirements and numerous other personal practices. The selective assorters are also a great service in the grouping of Morontia personalities for purposes of study, teaching, and other projects. They naturally indicate those who will best function in temporary association. Associate registrars. The Morontia world has in its own recorders who serve in association with the spirit recorders in the supervision and custody of the records and other data indigenous to the Morontia creations. The Morontia records are available to all orders of personalities. All Morontia transition realms are accessible alike to material and spirit beings. As Morontia progressors, you will remain in full contact with the material world and with material personalities. While you will increasingly discern and fraternize with spirit beings, and by the time of departure from the Morontia regime, you will have seen all orders of spirits, with the exception of a few of the higher types, with the solitary messengers. Morontia companions. These hosts of the mansion of Morontia worlds are the offspring of a local universe mother spirit. They are created from age to age in groups of 100,000, and in Abaddon they are at present over 70 billion of these unique beings. Morontia companions are trained for service by the Melchizedeks on a special planet near Solvington. They do not pass through the central Melchizedek schools. In service, they range from the lowest mansion worlds of the systems to the highest study spheres of Solvington, but they are seldom encountered on the inhabited worlds. They serve under the general supervision of the sons of God and under the immediate direction of the Melchizedeks. The Morontia companions maintain 10,000 headquarters in a local universe on each of the first mansion worlds of the local system. They are almost wholly a self-governing order and are, in general, an intelligent and loyal group of beings. But every now and then, in connection with certain unfortunate celestial upheavals, they have been known to go astray. Thousands of these useful creatures were lost during the times of the Lucifer Rebellion in Satania. Your local system now has its full quota of these beings, the loss of the Lucifer Rebellion having only recently been made up. There are two distinct types of Morontia companions. One type is aggressive, the other retiring, but otherwise they are equal in status. They are not sex creatures, but they manifest a touchingly beautiful affection for one another. And while they are hardly compassionate in the material human sense, they are very close of kin to the human races in the order of creature existence. The midway creatures of the worlds are your nearest of kin. Then come the Morontia cherubim, and after them, the Morontia companions. These companions are touchingly affectionate and charmingly social beings. They possess distinct personalities, and when you meet them on the mansion worlds, after learning to recognize them as a class, you will soon discern their individuality. Mortals all resemble one another. At the same time, each of you possess a distinct and recognizable personality. Something of an idea of the nature of the work of these Morontia companions may be derived from the following classification of their activities in the local system. 1. Pilgrim guardians are not assigned to specific duties in their association with the Morontia progressors. These companions are responsible for the whole of the Morontia career and are therefore the coordinators of the work of all other Morontia and transition ministers. 2. Pilgrim receivers and free associators. These are the social companions of the new arrivals on the mansion worlds. One of them will certainly be on hand to welcome you when you awaken on the initial mansion world for the first transit sleep of time, when you experience the resurrection from death of the flesh into the Morontia life. And from that time, you are thus formally welcomed on awakening to that day when you leave the local universe as a first stage spirit these Morontia companions are ever with you. Companions are not associated permanently to individuals. An ascending mortal on one of the mansion or higher worlds might have a different companion on each several successive occasions, and again might go for long periods without one. It would all depend on the requirements and also on the supply of companions available. 3. Host to celestial visitors. These gracious creatures are dedicated to the entertainment of the superhuman groups of student visitors and other celestials who may chance to sojourn on the transition worlds. You will have an ample opportunity to visit within any realm you have experimentally obtained. Student visitors are allowed on inhabited planets, even those in isolation. 4. Coordinators and liaison directors. These companions are detected to the facilitation of Morontia intercourse and to the prevention of confusion. They are the instructors of social conduct and Morontia progress, sponsoring classes and other group activities among the ascending mortals. They maintain extensive areas within, they assemble their pupils, and from time to time make requisition of the celestial artisans and the reversion directors for the embellishment of their programs. As you progress, you will come in intimate contact with these companions, and you will grow exceedingly fond of both groups. It's a matter of chance as whether you will be associated with an aggressive or a retiring type of companion. 5. Interpreters and translators. During the early Mancia career, you will have frequent recourse to the interpreters and translators. They know and speak all the tongues of local universe. They are the linguists of the realms. You will not acquire new languages automatically. You will learn a language over there much as you do down here. And these brilliant beings will be your language teachers. The first study on the mansion worlds will be the tongue of Satania and the language of Nebadon. And while you are mastering these new tongues, the Morontia companions will be your efficient interpreters and patient translators. You will never encounter a visitor of any of these worlds, but that someone of the Morontia companions will be able to officiate as interpreter. 6. Excursion and revision supervisors. Reversion. These companions will accompany you on a longer trips to the headquarters spheres and to the surrounding worlds of transition culture. They plan, conduct, and supervise all such individual and group tours about the system worlds of training and culture. 7. Area and building custodians. Even the material and Morontia structures increase in perfection and grandeur as you advance to the Mancenia career. As individuals and as groups, you are permitted to make certain changes in the abodes assigned as headquarters for your sojourn on the different mansion worlds. Many of the activities of these spheres take place in the open enclosures of the various designated circles, squares, and triangles. The majority of the mansion world structures are roofless, being enclosures of magnificent construction and exquisite embellishment. The climatic and other physical conditions prevailing all on the architectural worlds make roofs wholly unnecessary. These custodians of the transition phases of ascendant life are supreme in the management of Morontia affairs. They were created for this work, and pending the fractalization of Supreme Being, always will they remain Morontia companions. Never do they perform other duties. As systems and universes are settled in light and life, the mansion worlds increasingly cease to function as transition spheres of Morontia training. More and more, the finalitors institute their new training regime, which appears to be designed to translate the cosmic consciousness from the present level of the grand universe to that of the future outer universes. The Morontia companions are destined to function increasingly in association with the finalitors in numerous other realms, not at present revealed on Urantia. You can forecast that these beings are probably going to contribute much to your enjoyment on the mansion worlds, whether your sojourn is to be long or short, and you will continue to enjoy them all the way to Salvington. They are not technically essential to any part of your survival experience. You could reach Solvington without them, but you would greatly miss them. They are personality luxury of your ascending career in the local universe. I want one. The reversion directors. Joyful mirth and the smile equivalent are as universal as music. There is a morontial and spiritual equivalent of mirth and laughter. The ascendant life is about equally divided between work and play, freedom from assignment. So celestial relaxation and superhuman humor are quite different from their human analogous, but we all actually indulge in a form of both, and they really accomplish for us in our state just about what ideal humor is able to do for you on Urantia. The Morontia companions are skillful play sponsors, and they are most ably supported by the reversion directors. You would probably best understand the work of the reversion directors if they were likened to the higher types of humorists on Urantia, though that would be exceedingly crude and somewhat unfortunate way in which to try to convey in an idea of the function of these directors of change and relaxation, these ministers of the exalted humor of the Morontia and spiritual realms. In discussing spirit humor, first let me tell you what it is not. Spirit jest is never tinged with the accentuation of the misfortunes of the weak and erring. Neither is it either blasphemous of the righteous or glory of divinity. Our humor embraces three general levels of appreciation. I find this particularly interesting. Why? I guess spirit life isn't all that crazy work, and you're supposed to laugh and have fun and be heartfelt. Reminiscent gestures. Quips growing out of the memories of past episodes and one's experience of combat, struggle, and sometimes fearfulness, and oftentimes foolish and childish anxiety. To us, this phase of humor derives from the deep-seated and abiding ability to draw upon the past for memory material, which pleasantly to flavor and otherwise lighten the heavy loads of the present. Current humor, the senseless of much that is so often causes us serious concern. The joy at discovering the unimportance of much of our serious personal anxiety. We are most appreciative of this phase of humor when we are best able to discount the anxieties of the present in favor of the certainties of the future. Prophetic joy. It will perhaps be difficult for mortals to envisage these phases of humor, but we do not get a peculiar satisfaction out of this assurance that all things work together for good, for spirits and Morontians as well as for mortals. This aspect of celestial humor grows out of our faith in the loving overcare of our superiors and in divine stability of our supreme directors. But the reversion directors of the realms are not concerned exclusively with depicting the high humor of the various orders of intelligent beings. They are also occupied with the leadership of diversion, spiritual recreation, and Morontia entertainment. And in this connection, they have the hearty cooperation of the celestial artisans. The reversion directors themselves are not a created group. They are a recruited corps embracing beings ranging from the Harvonan natives down through the messenger hosts of space and the ministering spirits of time to the Morontia progressors from the evolutionary worlds. All are volunteers given themselves to the work of assisting their fellows in the achievement of thought change and mind rest, for such attitudes are most helpful in recuperating depleted energies. When partially exhausted by the efforts of attainment, and when awaiting the reception of new energy charges, there is agreeable pleasure in living over again the enactments of other days and ages. The early experiences of the race or of the order are restful and reminisce. And that is exactly why these artisans are called reversion directors. They assist in reverting the memory to a former state of development or to less experienced status of being. All beings enjoy this sort of reversion except those who are inherent creators, hence automatic self-rejuvenators, and certain highly specialized types of creatures, such as the power centers and the physical controllers, who are always and eternally thoroughly business-like in all their reactions. These periodic releases from the tension of functional duty are a regular part of life on all worlds throughout the universe of universes, but not on the Isle of Paradise. Beings indigenous of the central abode are incapable of depletion and are not therefore subject to re-energizing. And with such beings of eternal paradise perfection, there can be no such reversion to evolutionary experience. Most of us have come up through the lower stages of existence or through progressive levels of our orders, and it is refreshing and in a measure of amusing to look back on certain episodes of our early experience. There is a restfulness in the contemplation of that which is old to one's order and which lingers as a memory possession of the mind. The future signifies struggle and advancement. It bespeaks work, effort, and achievement, but the past saviors of things already mastered and achieved. Contemplation of the past permits of relaxation and such a carefree review as to provoke spirit mirth and a Morontia state of mind verging on merriment. Even mortal humor becomes most heartily when it depicts episodes of affecting those just a little beneath one's present development state, or when it portrays one's supposed superiors falling victim to the experiences which are commonly associated with supposed inferiors. You of Urantia have allowed much of that at once vulgar and unkind to become confused with your humor, but on the whole, you are to be congratulated on a comparatively keen sense of humor. Some of your races have a rich vein of it and are gently helpful and in their earthly careers thereby. Apparently, you received much in the way of humor from your Adamic inheritance, which much then was secured of either music or art. All Satania, during times of play, those times when inhabitants refreshingly resurrect the memories of a lower stage of existence, is edified by the pleasant humor of corpse of reversion directors from Urantia. The sense of celestial humor we have with us always, even when engaged in the most difficult of assignments. It helps to avoid an overdevelopment of the notion of one's self-importance, but we do not give rein to it freely, as you might say, have fun, except when we are in recess from the serious assignments of our respective orders. When we are tempted to magnify our self-importance, if we stop to contemplate the infinity of the greatness and grandeur of our makers, our own self-glorification becomes sublimely ridiculous, even verging on the humorous. One of the functions of humor is to help all of us take ourselves less seriously. Humor is the divine antidote for escalation of ego. The need for the relaxation and diversion of humor is greatest in those orders of ascendant beings who are subjected to sustained stress in their upward struggles. The two extremes of life have little need for humorous diversions. Primitive men have no capacity therefore, and beings of paradise perfected have no need thereof. The hosts of Havona are naturally a joyous and exhilarating assemblage of supremely happy personalities. On paradise, the quality of worship obliviates the necessity for reversion activities, but among those who start their careers as below the goal of paradise perfection, there is a large place for the ministry of the reversion directors. The higher mortal species, the greater the stress, the greater the capacity for humor, as well as the necessity for it. In the spirit world, the opposite is true. The higher we ascend, the less the need for the diversions of reversion experiences. But proceeding down the scale of spirit life from paradise to the seraphic hosts, there is an increasing need for the mission of mirth and ministry of merriment. Those beings who most need the refreshment of periodic reversion to the intellectual status of previous experiences are the higher types of the human species, the Morontians, angels, and the material sons, together with the similar types of personality. Humor should function as an automatic safety valve to prevent the building up of excessive pressures due to the monotony of the sustained and serious self-contemplation in association with intense struggle for development, progression, and noble achievement. Humor also functions to lessen the shock of the unexpected impact of fact or of truth, rigid, unyielding fact, and flexible, ever-living truth. The Morontia personality, never sure as to which will next be encountered, through humor swiftly grasps, sees the point, and achieves insight, the unexpected nature of the situation to be fact or to be truth. While the humor of Urantia is exceedingly crude and most inartistic, it does serve as a valuable purpose, both as a health insurance and as a liberator of emotional pressure, thus preventing injurious nervous tension and over-serious self-contemplation. Humor and play and relaxation are never reactions of progressive exertion. Always are they the echoes of backward glance, a reminiscence of the past. Even on Urantia and as you are now, you always find it rejuvenating when a short time you can suspend the exertions of the newer and higher intellectual efforts and revert to the more simple engagements of your ancestors. The principles of Urantia play life are philosophically sound and continue to apply on up through your ascending life, through the circuits of Harvona to the eternal shores of paradise. As an ascended beings, you are in possession of personal memories of all former and lower existences, and without such identity memories of the past, there would be no basis for the humor of the present, either mortal laughter or Morontia mirth. It is the recalling of the past experiences that provides the basis for the present diversion and amusement. And so you will enjoy the celestial equivalents of your earthly humor all the way up through your long Morontia and then increasingly spiritual careers. And that part of God, the adjuster, which becomes an eternal part of the personality of an ascendant mortal, contributes the overtones of divinity to the joyous expressions, even spiritual laughter, of the ascending creatures of time and space. The Mansion World Teachers. The Mansion World Teachers are a corpse of deserted but glorified cherubim and cenobim. When a pilgrim of time advances from a trial world of space to the mansion and associated worlds of a Morontia training, he is accompanied by his personal or group seraphim, the guardian of destiny. In the worlds of mortal existence, the seraphim is ably assisted by cherubim and cenobim. But when her mortal ward is delivered from the bonds of the flesh and starts out on the ascended career, when the post-material or Morontia life begins, the attending seraphim has no further need of the administrations of her former lieutenants, the cherubim and cenobim. These deserted assistants of the ministering seraphim are often summoned to universe headquarters, where they pass into the intimate embrace of the universe mother spirit, and then go forth to the system training spheres as Mansion World Teachers. These teachers often visit the material worlds and function from the lowest mansion worlds on up to the highest of the educational spheres connected with the universe headquarters. Upon their own motion, they may return to their former associative work with the ministering seraphim. There are billions upon billions of these teachers in Satania, and their numbers consistently increase because of the majority of instances when a seraphim proceeds inward with an adjuster fused mortal, both the cherubim and the cenobim are left behind. Mansion World Teachers, like most of other instructors, are commissioned by the Melchizedeks. They are generally supervised by the Morontia companions, but as individuals, as teachers, they are supervised by the acting heads of the schools or spheres wherein they may be functioning as instructors. These advanced cherubim usually work in pairs as they did when attached to the seraphim. They are by nature very near the Morontia type of existence, and they are inherently sympathetic teachers of the ascending mortals and most efficiently conduct the program of the Mansion World and Morontia educational system. In the schools of Morontia Life, these teachers engage in the individual, group, and class and mass teaching. On the Mansion World, such schools are organized in 3 general groups of 100 divisions each: the schools of thinking, the schools of feeling, the schools of doing. When you reach the constellation, there are added the schools of ethics, the schools of administration, and the schools of social adjustment. On the universe headquarter worlds, you will enter the schools of philosophy, divinity, and pure spirituality. Those things which you might have learned on earth, but which you failed to learn, must be acquired under the tutelage of these faithful and patient teachers. There are no royal roads, shortcuts, or easy paths to paradise. Irrespective of the individual variations of the route, you master the lessons of one sphere before you proceed to another. At least this is true after you once leave the world of your nativity. One of the purpose of the Morontia career is to effect the permanent eradication from the mortal supervisors such animal I can't project this word. Vestigial. Sorry, guys. Teeth. Traits as procrastination, equivocation, insincerity, problem avoidance, unfairness, and easy seeking. The Morontia Life early teaches the young Morontia pupils that postponement is no sense avoidance. After the life in the flesh, time is no longer available as a technique of dodging situations or circumventing disagreeable obligations. Beginning service on the lowest of the tarrying spheres, the Morontian world teachers advance with experience through the educational spheres of the system and constellation to the training worlds of Salvington. They are subjected to no special discipline, either before or after their embrace by the universe Mother Spirit. They have already been trained for their work while serving on the seraphic associates on the worlds native to their pupils of Mansion World Sojourn. They have had actual experience with these advancing mortals on the inhabited worlds. They are practical and sympathetic teachers, wise and understanding instructors, able and efficient guides. They are entirely similar with the ascended plans and thoroughly experienced in the initial phases of the progression career. Many of the older of these teachers, those who have long served on the worlds of Salvington Circuit, are re-embraced by the universe Mother Spirit. And from this second embrace, these cherubim and cenobim emerge with the status of seraphim. Morontia World Seraphim, transition ministers. While all orders of angels, from the planetary helpers to the supreme seraphim ministers on the Morontia worlds, the transition ministers are more exclusively assigned to those activities. These angels are of the 6th order of the seraphic servers, and their ministry is devoted to facilitating the transition of material and mortal creatures from the temporal life in the flesh on into the early stages of Morontia existence on the 7 mansion worlds. You should understand that the Morontia life of an ascending mortal is really initiated on the inhibited worlds at the conception of the soul, at the moment when the creature mind of moral status is indwelt by the spirit adjuster. And from that moment on, the mortal soul has potential capacity for supermortal function, even for recognition on the higher levels of the Morontia spheres of the local universe. You will not, however, be conscious of the ministry of the transition seraphim until you obtain the mansion worlds, where they labor untiringly for the advancement of their mortal pupils, being assigned for service in the following 7 divisions. Seraphic evangels. The moment you cognize on mansion worlds, you are classified as evolving spirits in the records of the system. True, you are not yet spirits in reality, but you are no longer mortal or material beings. You have embarked upon the pre-spirit career and have been duly admitted to the Morontia Life. On the mansion worlds, the seraphic evangels will help you to choose wisely among the optional routes to Urantia, Salvington, Uversa, and Harvona. If there are a number of equal advisable routes, these will be put before you, and you will be permitted to select one that most appeals to you. These seraphim then make recommendations to the 4 and 20 advisors on Jerusalem concerning that course which would be most advantageous for each ascending soul. You are not given unrestricted choice as to your future course, but you may choose within the limits of that which the transition ministers and their supervisors wisely determine to be most suitable for your future spirit obtainment. The spirit world is governed on the principle of respecting your free will choice, provided the course you may choose is not detrimental to you or injurious to your fellows. These seraphic evangels are dedicated to the proclamation of the gospel of eternal progression, the triumph of perfection attainment. On the mansion worlds, they proclaim the great law of the conservation and dominance of goodness. No act of good is either wholly lost. It may be long thwarted, but never wholly annulled, and it is eternally potent in proportion to the divinity of its motivation. Even on Urantia, they counsel the human teachers of truth and righteousness to adhere to the preaching of the goodness of God, which leads to repentance, to proclaim the love of God, which casts out all fear. Even so have these truths been declared on your world. The gods are my caretakers, I shall not stray. Side by side they lead me in the beautiful paths and glorious refreshings of life everlasting. I shall not in this divine presence want for food nor thirst for water. Though I go down into the valley of uncertainty or ascend up into the worlds of doubt, though I move in loneliness or with the fellows of my kind, though I triumph in the choirs of light or falter in the solitary places of the spheres, your good spirit shall minister to me, and your glorious angel will comfort me. Though I descend into the depths of darkness and death itself, I shall not doubt you nor fear you. For I know that in the fullness of time and glory of your name, you will raise me up to sit with you on the battlements on high. That is a story whispered in the night season to the shepherd boy. He could not retain it word for word, but to the best of his memory, he gave it much as is recorded today. These seraphim are also the evangels of the gospel of perfection attainment for the whole system, as well as for the individual ascender. Even now in the younger system of Satania, their teachings and plans encompass provisions for the future ages when the mansion worlds will no longer serve the mortal ascenders as stepping stones to the spheres on high. Racial interpreters. All races of mortal beings are not alike. True, there is a planetary pattern running through the physical, mental, and spiritual natures and tendencies of the various races of a given world, but there are also distinct racial types and very definite social tendencies characterized by the offspring of those different basic types of human beings. On the worlds of time, the seraphic racial interpreters further the efforts of the race commissioners to harmonize the varied viewpoints of the races, and they continue to function on the mansion worlds, where these same differences tend to persist in a measure. On a confused planet such as Urantia, these brilliant beings have hardly had a fair opportunity to function, but they are the skillful sociologists and the wise ethnic advisors of the first heaven. You should consider the statement about heaven and the heaven of heavens. The heaven conceived by most of your prophets were the first of the mansion worlds of the local system. When the apostle spoke of being caught up to the third heaven, he referred to that experience in which his adjuster was detached during sleep, and in this unusual state made a projection to the third of the 7 mansion worlds. Some of your wise men saw the vision of the greater heaven, the heaven of heavens, of which the 7-fold mansion world experience was but the first, the second being Jerusalem, the third, Adentia, its satellites, the fourth, Salvington, and the surrounding educational spheres, the fifth, Yaversa, the sixth, Harvona, and the seventh, Paradise. Mind planners. The seraphim are devoted to the effective grouping of Morontia beings and to organizing their teamwork on the mansion worlds. They are the psychologists of the first heaven. The majority of this particular division of seraphic ministers have had previous experience as guardian angels to the children of time, but their wards, for some reason, failed to personalize on the mansion worlds, or else survived by the technique of spirit fusion. It is the task of the mind planners to study the nature, experience, and status of the adjuster souls in transit through the mansion worlds, and to facilitate their grouping for assignment and advancement. But these mind planners do not scheme, manipulate, or otherwise take advantage of the ignorance or other limitations of mansion world students. They are wholly fair and eminently just. They respect your newborn Morontia will. They regard you as independent volitional beings, and they seek to encourage your speedy development and advancement. Here you are face to face with true friends and understanding counselors, angels, who are really able to help you, to see yourself as others see you, and to know yourself as angels know you. Even on Urantia, the seraphim teach the everlasting truth. If your own mind does not serve you well, you can exchange it for the mind of Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, who always serves you well. I added the Yeshua. For some reason, I can't with Jesus. Morontia counselors. These ministers receive their name because they are assigned to teach, direct, and counsel the surviving mortals from the worlds of human origin, souls in transit to the higher schools of the system headquarters. They are the teachers of those who seek insight into the experimental unity of divergent life levels, those who are attempting the integration of meanings and unification of values. This is the function of philosophy, immortal life of Moda on the Morontia spheres. Moda is more than a superior philosophy. It is to philosophy as to two eyes as to one. It has a stereoscopic effect on meaning and values. Material man sees the universe, as it were, with but one eye flat. Mansion world students achieve cosmic perspective depth by superimposing the perceptions of the Morontia life upon the perceptions of the physical life. And they are enabled to bring these material and Morontia viewpoints into true focus, largely through the untiring ministry of their seraphic counselors, who so patiently teach the mansion world students and Morontia progressors. Many of the teaching counselors of the Supreme Order of the Seraphim begin their careers as advisors of the newly liberated souls of the Morontia, of the mortals of time. Technicians. These are the seraphim who help new ascenders adjust themselves to the new and comparatively strange environment of the Morontia spheres. Life on the transition worlds entails real contact with the energies and materials of both the physical and Morontia levels, and to a certain extent with spiritual realities. Ascenders must acclimatize to every new Morontia level, and in all of this, they are greatly helped by the seraphic technicians. These seraphim act as liaisons with the Morontia power supervisors and the master physical controllers, and function extensively as instructors of the ascending pilgrims concerning the nature of those energies, which are utilized on the transition spheres. They serve as energy space traversers and perform numerous other regular special duties. Recorder teachers. These seraphim are the recorders of the borderland transactions of the spiritual and physical, of the relationships of men and angels, of the Morontia transactions of the lower universe realms. They also serve as instructors regarding the efficient and effective techniques of fact recording. There is an artistry in the intelligent assembly of coordination of related data, and this art is heightened in the collaboration with the celestial artisans, and even the ascending mortals become thus affiliated with the recording seraphim. The recorders of all the seraphic orders devote a certain amount of time to the education and training of the Morontia progressors. These angelic custodians of the facts of time are the ideal instructors of all fact seekers. Before leaving Jerusalem, you will become quite familiar with the history of Satania and its 619 inhabited worlds, and much of this story will be imparted by the seraphic recorders. These angels are all in the chain of recorders extending from the lowest to the highest of custodians of the facts of time and the truths of eternity. Someday they will teach you to seek truth as well as fact, to expand your soul as well as your mind. Even now you should learn to water the garden of your heart as well as to seek for dry sands of knowledge. Forms are valueless when lessons are learned. No chick may be had without the shell, and no shell is of any worth after the chick is hatched. But sometimes error is so great that it is rectification by revaluation would be fatal to those slowly emerging truths which are essential to the experimental overthrow. When children have their ideas and ideals, do not dislodge them, let them grow. And while you are learning to think as men, you should also be learning to pray as children. Law is life itself and not the rules of the conduct. Evil is a transgression of law, not a violation of the rules of conduct pertaining to life, which is the law. Falsehood is not a matter of narration technique, but something premeditated as a perversion of truth. The creation of new pictures out of old facts, the restatement of a paternal life and the lives of offspring, these are the artistic triumphs of truth. The shadow of a hair's turning, premeditated for an untrue purpose, the slightest twisting or perversion of that which is principle, these constitute falseness. But the fetish of factualized truth, fossilized truth, the iron brand of so-called unchanging truth, holds one blindly in a closed circle of cold fact. One can be technically right as to fact and everlasting wrong in truth. That's bananas. That's worthy of a picture. Ministering reserves, a large corps of all orders of transition, seraphim, is held on the first mentioned world. Next to the destiny guardians, these transition ministers draw the nearest to humans of all orders of seraphim, and many of your leisure moments will be spent with them. Angels take delight in service, and when unassigned, often minister as volunteers. The soul of many an ascending mortal has for the first time been kindled by the divine fire of the will to service through a personal friendship with the volunteer servers of the seraphic reserves. From them, you will learn to let pressure develop stability and certainty, to be faithful and earnest, and withal cheerful, to accept challenges without complaint, and to face difficulties and uncertainties without fear. They will ask, if you fail, you will rise indomitably to try anew. If you succeed, will you maintain a well-balanced poise, a stable and spiritualized attitude throughout every effort in the long struggle to break the fetters of material inertia to obtain the freedom of spiritual existence? Even as mortals, so have these angels been farther to many disappointments, and they will point out that sometimes your most disappointing disappointments have become your greatest blessings. Sometimes the planting of a seed necessitates its death, the death of your fondest hopes before it can be reborn to bear the fruits of a new life and new opportunity. And from them, you will learn to suffer less through sorrow and disappointment, first by making fewer personal plans concerning other personalities, and then by accepting your lot when you have faithfully performed your duty. You will learn that you increase your burdens and decrease the likelihood of success by taking yourself too seriously. Nothing can take precedence over the work of your status sphere, this world or the next. Very important is the work of the preparation for the next higher sphere, but nothing equals the importance of the work of the world in which you are actually living. But though the work is the work of the world in which you are actually living, I'm sorry, I repeated, but though the work is important, the self is not. When you feel important, you lose energy to the wear and tear of ego dignity so that there is little energy left to do the work. Self-importance, not work importance, exhausts immature creatures. It is the self element that exhausts, not the effort to achieve. You can do important work if you do not become self-important. You can do several things as easily as one if you leave yourself out. Variety is restful. Monotony is what wears and exhausts. Day after day is alike, just life or an alternative of death. We're almost there, guys. Morontia Moda. The lower planes of Morontia Moda join directly with the higher levels of human philosophy. On the first mentioned world is the practice to teach the less advanced students by the parallel technique. That is, in one column are presented the more simple concepts of Moda meanings. And in the opposite column, citation is made of analogous statements of mortal philosophy. Not long since, when executing an assignment on the first mentioned world of Satania, I had occasion to observe the method of teaching. And though I may not undertake at present the Moda content of the lesson, I am permitted to record the 28 statements of human philosophy, which this Morontia instructor was utilizing as an illustrative material design to assist these new mansion world sojourners in their early efforts to grasp the significance and meaning of Moda. Thus, this illustration of human philosophy were: a display of specialized skill does not signify possession of spiritual capacity. Cleverness is not a substance for true character. Few persons live up to the faith which they really have. Unreasoned fear is a master intellectual fraud practiced upon the evolving mortal soul. Inherent capacities cannot be exceeded. A pint can never hold a quart. The spirit concept cannot be mechanically forced into the material memory mold. Few mortals ever dare to draw anything like the sum of the personality credits established by the combined ministries of nature and grace. The majority of impoverished souls are truly rich, but they refuse to believe it. Difficulties may challenge mediocrity and defeat the fearful, but they only stimulate the true children of the Most Highs. To enjoy privilege without abuse, to have liberty without license, to possess power and steadfastly refuse to use it for self-aggrandizement, these are the marks of high civilization. Blind and unforeseen accidents do not occur in the cosmos. Neither do the celestial beings assist the lower beings who refuse to act upon his light of truth. Effort does not always produce joy, but there is no happiness without intelligent effort. Action achieves strength. Moderation eventuates in charm. Righteousness strikes the harmony chords of truth, and the melody vibrates throughout the cosmos, even to the recognition of the infinite. The weak indulge in resolutions, but the strong act. Life is but a day's work. Do it well. The act is ours. The consequence is God's. The greatest affliction of the cosmos is never to have been afflicted. Mortals only learn wisdom by experiencing tribulation. Stars are best discerned from the lonely isolation of experimental depths, not from the illumined and ecstatic mountaintops. Whet the appetites of your associations for truth. Give advice only when it is asked for. Affection is a ridiculous effort of the ignorant to appear wise, the attempt of the barren soul to appear rich. You cannot perceive spiritual truth until you're experiencing it. And many truths are not really felt except in adversity. Ambition is dangerous until it is fully socialized. You have not truly acquired any virtue until your acts make you worthy of it. Impatience is a spirit poison. Anger, like a stone hurled into a hornet's nest. Anxiety must be abandoned. The disappointments hardest to bear are those which never come. Only a poet can discern poetry in the commonplace prose of routine existence. The high mission of any art is, by its illusions, to foreshadow a higher universe reality, to crystallize the emotions of time into the thought of eternity. The evolving soul is not made divine by what it does, but by what it strives to do. Death added nothing to the intellectual possession or to the spiritual endowment, but it did add to the experiential status, the consciousness of survival. The destiny of eternity is determined moment by moment by the achievements of the day-by-day living. The acts of today are the destiny of tomorrow. Greatness lies not so much in possessing strength as it's making a wise and divine use of such strength. Knowledge is possessed only by sharing. It is safeguarded by wisdom and socialized by love. Progress demands development of individuality. Mediocrity seeks perpetuation in standardization. The argumentative defense of any proposition is inversely proportional to the truth contained. Such is the work of the beginners on the first mentioned world, while the more advanced pupils on the latter worlds are mastering the higher levels of cosmic insight and Morontia Moda. The Morontia progressors. From the time of graduation from the mansion worlds to the attainment of spirit status in the super universe career, ascending mortals are denominated Morontia progressors. Your passage through this wonderful borderland life will be an unforgettable experience, a charming memory. It is the evolutionary portal to spirit life and the eventual attainment of creature perfection by which ascenders achieve the goal of time, the finding of God on paradise. There is a definite and divine purpose in all the Morontia and subsequent spirit scheme of mortal progression. This elaborate universe training school for ascending creatures. It is the design of the creators to afford the creatures of time a graduated opportunity to master the details of the operation and administration of the grand universe, and this long course of training to best carried forward by having the surviving mortals climb up gradually and by actually participating in every step of the ascent. The mortal survival plan has a practical and serviceable objective. You are not the recipients of all this divine labor and painstaking training only that you may survive just to enjoy endless bliss and eternal ease. There's a goal of transcendent service concealed beyond the horizon of the present universe age. If the gods designed merely to take you on one long and eternal joy excursion, they certainly would not so largely turn the whole universe into the vast and intricate practical training school, requisition a substantial part of the celestial creation as teachers and instructors, and then spread ages upon ages, piloting you one by one through the gigantic universe school of experimental training. The furtherance of the scheme of mortal progression seems to be one of the chief businesses of the present organized universe, and the majority of the innumerable orders of created intelligences are either directly or indirectly engaged in advancing some phase of this progressive, perfected plan. In traversing the ascending scale of living existence from mortal men to the deity embraced, you will actually live the very life of every possible phase and stage of perfected creature existence within the limits of the present universe age. From mortal men to paradise, finaliter embraces all that now can be, encompasses everything presently possible to the living orders of intelligent, perfected, finite creature beings. If the future destiny of paradise finaliters is service in new universes, now in the making, it is assured that in this new and future creation, there will be no created orders of experimental beings whose lives will be wholly different from those which mortal finaliters have lived on some world as a part of their ascending training, as one of the stages of their age-long progress from animal to angel, from angel to spirit, from spirit to God. Presented by the Archangel of Nebadon. That was a lot. My throat is really dry. Sorry. Had some teeth issues. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and this really encompasses the 7-mansion worlds. This helps the lead in to understanding the jobs, the functions. And while I was reading in one of these worlds, talking about them working on the mortal. When I had my medium reading, and I was told that the Archangel Collective, which I was told that I'm a part of, they're coming and working on my soul. So they're coming down and they're working on me in the physical. And each one of the archangels that are supposed to work with me are taking turns teaching me. Fun times. Very fun. And at times I do feel their presence. I got a voltmeter, and I could tell when my body, I baseline my body at night, what voltage I'm carrying. And then when I wake up, because of co-host number 1 needing water, I do the test, and I can tell when I'm fluctuating in my energy. And sometimes it's fast. So very interesting to read that section. I hope you guys enjoyed. It was long, so I do apologize. To all of those in the United States, have a happy Independence Day. Please be safe. Please be responsible about your actions. If you're drinking, please do not drive. Have a safe designated driver. I shouldn't have to tell people on this channel that, but you never know. Just keep it in the back of your mind when you're at a party. Maybe you're the responsible person that helps other people out like I am. Please do the responsible thing. Please be safe while driving. If you're going out, I'm going to a barbecue, so I got to be really careful going home. Yes. If you're lighting fireworks, please just be mindful of your digits. I am sending each and every one of you protection, light, love, and shielding. Please be safe. Please enjoy. And for those of you in other countries and other places around the world, keep striving to do better in terms of learning. We need this right now. We need to expand, and we need to hold the frequency. We need to hold the light, and we need to hold positivity. If we keep sucking ourselves back into the negative, we're not going based on what especially the last section is genius. And it really does apply to us and what we need to transcend and take from. So they're still booming outside. Please don't forget to hit that like button. Please subscribe. It helps me. Helps everybody out with the knowledge. Helps people find this quicker. Please like. That's another way you can support me. And share if you feel inclined to do so. Have a great night, guys.